Guess what, guys? We've made it. If you're watching this, you're on the last video, you've read the book, you've responded, this is it. This and then you're done with the course, you're done with the semester. That's pretty exciting, right? So here's where I just want to pull things together and talk about our call as it relates to this book, but also as it recalls to missions. And chapter 18, KP brings this. He says, each of us must follow the Lord in the place that he has called us, the national evangelists to his land and sponsors to their lands. Some people obey the call, meaning the Great Commission, by going, others by supporting, and others by praying. And that's where we are called to go, do, and pray. So the first thing is, what's the call to complete the Great Commission? One is going. Short-term missions are awesome. If you get a chance, go on one. Long as it does this, it serves a national either ministry or missionary. With engaged trips, before we go, we don't say, hey, we want to go and do this. We go call and say, first off, do you want us to come? And then secondly, what do you need us to do for you? And legitimately, I've been part of short-term missionary trips where they say, what we need you to do is come down here, stand on the corner and sing a song, and then we're going to preach the gospel. And you know what we did? I went down, I sat on the corner, and I cackled like a dead cat on the street corner because that's what they needed and that's what they wanted. And so we're serving a local ministry rather than doing our own thing. Long-term, meaning 6 months, 8 months, a year, 2, 3 years, a Western missionary should go, but instead of trying to do the ministry, we have so many resources that we should equip the local people to do it. And that is super successful. So the ministries I support that are missionaries, they're training the locals to do the ministry for them. And so they don't necessarily go out to the local people and they actually train the local people. They gather the pastors to them. They teach them the Bible. They train them and they equip them to minister to the local people. That's what the missionaries are best from the Western to do, is to go and train them because we have so many resources. So the first thing, to fulfill the Great Commission, go if you have a chance. Second, pray. James 5:16 says, the earnest prayer of a righteous person has great power and produces wonderful results. Do you realize that no walls, no international borders, no governments can stop your prayer? They can make laws, they can pass laws like in Daniel, but you can still pray. You can pray for that missionary all the way across the country, all across the world, and you can see God move or know God is moving even though you cannot be there. So we can go. We can pray. KP throws this one out. We can give. We can support. You know, if you've been motivated, you can jump on the Gospel for Asia website, support a missionary, $30 a month. And you can start supporting them now. But you can give them financially. You can do encouragement. You could just email them and say, hey, great job. I can't afford to give you anything now, but you're doing amazing work. That would mean them wonderful. If you know any missionaries, after this finishes, jump on your email, send them a quick note just saying, hey, prayed for you. You're awesome. Love you. Like that would mean the world to them. But giving is a huge thing. I intentionally take some of my finances and I give it to missionaries who are advancing the gospels overseas. So we can go, we can pray, we can give. But we also can simply be living. Here's the deal. We're also called to be witnesses and do the Great Commission where we are at. That's foreign missions. But local missions, do you realize you are a local here who can minister to other locals? So often, we measure our lives in comparison to other people around us. Oh, I'm better than so-and-so student. I'm better than so-and-so. I'm more awesome than fill in the blank. But here, KP throws out, he says, we've measured ourselves so long by the people around us that we cannot see the standard set by Jesus or by Paul or such apostles as that. Are we measuring our Christian life based off of our fellow students or supports, or pastors or preachers? Or are we modeling our life after Jesus? Are we doing the Great Commission because that's what Jesus' heart is? Is your life matching up to God's call and Jesus' call with the gospel? So we can go, we can pray, we can give, we can live and support our and live with our neighbors and so forth around it. But the third one is just building on living is we are called to follow Jesus. Jesus says this, as valuable as this education, as valuable as your job may be to you, the souls of people are infinitely more valuable to me. I don't know what you're currently valuing super tight. Is it your family? Is it alone time? Is it books? Is it Netflix? Is it Disney Plus? Awesome service. But if you value those, imagine God's heart, how much more he values one soul. See, one soul is worth a lifetime of sacrifice if they're brought into the kingdom. And so truly living out and truly following Jesus' call to see the Great Commission fulfilled is a worthwhile pursuit. So don't settle for just being entertained, but try to follow Jesus in seeing his will fulfilled. Now, to sum this whole semester up, I'm going to try to do it in 2 minutes. Can I do it? Probably not, but we're going to try. Here's where we're at. Do you realize we started this semester in missions with this? The Great Commission is going and making disciples. If you're doing that, if you're going and you're making disciples as you go, you've succeeded in completing the Great Commission. So where do we end this semester? At the same thing, going and making disciples. See, we kind of started locally a little bit because I was teaching you how to share your faith and share your testimony and share the gospel. That's doing it in our local community, but this whole second half has been about looking overseas and looking at people groups further away. Both of them need the gospel. But the Great Commission isn't fulfilled. It's not fulfilled in our communities, in our cities, in our nation, in our state, in the globe. It still has yet to be completed. We are called to go and make disciples. If you have a right relationship with Jesus, you're already successful. But once you've got that right relationship with Jesus, then it would be sin not to do God's will. And God's will is to make disciples wherever you would be. And you can do that by loving on your neighbor. You can do that by praying for people. You can do that by supporting your church. You can do that by not only financial, but volunteering at your church. You can do that by supporting overseas missions. What I want to encourage you is there's an opportunity for heavenly reward. Any sacrifice you make to advance God's kingdom will be well rewarded when you get to heaven. You will look back when you get to heaven at everything you did and you said and you prayed and you gave and you sacrificed for God's kingdom, and you will say, I wish I would have done 100 times more, but thank God I did some of it. I'm always concerned about eternity. I keep it in front of me every single day because I don't want to get to eternity and be disappointed knowing that I could have done more. I want to get to eternity knowing I gave God my best. I did the best possible. So would you give up your will for God's will? Would you lay down your life and say, God, I want the call. I want to go. I want to be your servant, but also your friend. And I want to see the Great Commission fulfilled. That's where we started the semester. That's where we end the semester. But here's the thing. That's just the beginning of a true Christian life, is to go and make disciples. So as we end, may that be my challenge to you. Would you go, reach out, and make disciples to the people around you and all across the world? It is a worthy goal. May we live our lives worthy of the cross.